I just caught Google Cloud quietly supercharging an underdog crypto project, and it completely changed how I view this coin. Now, this twist has HBAR holders like me buzzing, and it might just spark the next big crypto breakout. So, picture this, right? I'm starting my day scrolling through crypto news, tea in hand, not coffee, when I see Hedera, HBAR, suddenly trending. Now, HBAR doesn't usually dominate headlines, right? So I had to find out why. Then I spot it. Google Cloud's name right next to Hedera in an announcement. I was like, wait, Google Cloud and Hedera. What on earth is going on here? So my mind immediately starts racing. Why is a tech giant quietly working with this relatively lesser known cryptocurrency? And there's got to be a more of a story here, right? And by the end of this video, you're going to know what Google just did for Hedera and how it ties to some serious momentum building behind HBAR, and even how it's inspired me to try a quirky little side project to earn crypto on the side. Here's a hint. It involves your smartphone. Now, stick with me. This gets really interesting. So it all started earlier in the week. Now I noticed HBAR spiking on the charts. It actually kind of hit around 20 cents, which was an 88% jump from its rock bottom price earlier this year. Now that kind of move is not random. In fact, that rebound was actually strong enough to push HBAR back into the top 20 cryptocurrencies by market cap. Now as someone who's held a bit of HBAR through all of the dull moments, I was thrilled to see, at least to finally see some life in this project, right? But I was also scratching my head. What was fueling the surge? Did some billionaire tweet about it? Did HBAR cure cancer overnight? It turns out that the catalyst was more substantial, and way nerdier anyway, than maybe your typical kind of crypto rumor, because Hedera got integrated into Google Cloud's BigQuery. Okay, so that sounds a bit technical, I know, but let me break it down why that actually maybe do a bit of a double take. BigQuery is basically Google's giant data analytics platform. Kind of like Google search engine, but for massive, massive data sets. Now, they've already got public data sets for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polygon, and other major blockchains that are out there. Now, they've gone ahead and added Hedera, at least Hedera's entire history, to that list too. In plain English here, any developer, researcher, or curious geek like me can now easily query Hedera's full transactional history and smart contract data, just like they can for Bitcoin or Ethereum, and without running any special node or infrastructure. Google's cloud servers handle the heavy lifting. Now, this means that Hedera is sitting at the same table as the biggest names in crypto from a data perspective, and a huge legitimacy boost to go with. Now, here is why that is such a big deal. First, it puts Hedera on equal footing with the big boys in terms of transparency and analysis. Developers can now compare Hedera's transaction speeds and costs side by side with other networks. Analysts can now track Hedera's token movements, NFT activity, and DeFi trends across multiple chains easily. It's like Hedera just got invited to the Blockchain Analytics Olympics, and it can finally show off its stats next to Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. Second, this integration signals that Hedera is maturing. It's not just another altcoin floating in its own little world. It's now actually a part of this institutional-grade data platform. So when Google Cloud starts hosting your data, that quietly says that this network is actually worth paying attention to. And it's quite indeed, Google didn't exactly blast this on TV and do anything crazy, but it was within the crypto industry and it was kind of like a nod of approval. Now, here's a fun fact. Google and Hedera actually go way, way back, right? Now, this isn't the first time that their paths have crossed. In fact, back in February of 2020, Google Cloud joined Hedera's governing council and even began running a Hedera network node. Yes, Google's been literally helping secure the network for years. Now, they also mentioned that they'd make Hedera's ledger data available alongside other public DLT datasets. So this BigQuery integration was kind of just foreshadowed, right? You could say that it's the latest step in a long-running friendship between Google and Hedera. Still, seeing it finally happen here in 2025, it did give me a few goosebumps. It means that the relationship is still alive and well, and, producing tangible results. What I also love about this is that it wasn't just Google flipping a switch. Hedera's team really pushed for this, and they did it right away. The Hedera Foundation, they coordinated with a Web3 data firm and open sourced all of the code for extracting and loading Hedera's data into BigQuery. This means that the community can review, audit, and even improve the data pipeline. The dataset will stay updated with every network upgrade, and so it remains a reliable source of the truth, right? Essentially, Hedera now has a live public library of all of its transactions that anyone can query anytime, and it's kept in sync with the network in real time. For enterprises thinking about using Hedera for, let's say, supply chain tracking or ESG reporting, this is actually huge. They can plug Hedera's data into their existing analysis tools, right? I mean, BigQuery uses good old SQL queries, right? And you can compare things, let's say carbon offset token transactions on Hedera versus Ethereum, or even verify supply chain events across different blockchains. Now, by leveraging Google's cloud infrastructure here, the data is already up to date, and it is ready for big applications from DeFi research to sustainability auditing. And we're talking institutional grade accessibility here. So, you have this under the radar tech milestone then, right? A deeper integration with Google's cloud arsenal. And right around the same time, HBAR's price starts climbing. Coincidence? Maybe not, right? Because guess what? There's also another piece to this puzzle, an ETF. Yeah, an actual HBAR traded fund, or exchange traded fund, recently launched called the Canary HBAR ETF, and it's been quietly pulling in some money. Now, in just the last couple of weeks, we saw $71 million of inflows. It currently holds roughly 69 million in assets, which is about 0.91% of HBAR's total market cap. Now, that might not sound like earth-shattering numbers, but let's think about this. That's institutional and traditional investors getting exposure to HBAR through a regulated product. Now, for any newly launched crypto ETF to gather that much so quickly, it is a sign that there's some real interest from bigger players. Even if it is modest, as the news would call it, it is still notable. So here we are. Google Cloud is effectively giving Hedera a pat on the back in terms of data infrastructure, and institutional money is nibbling away at HBAR via an ETF. So it's no wonder that the whole market woke up, right? HBAR's price has been pretty sleepy most of the year, but these developments lit a fire underneath it. Over the last week or so, HBAR has climbed roughly 5%, while many of the other larger coins were simply flat, or the trading volume, was poor. But HBAR, the trading volume had exploded higher, indicating renewed interest. Suddenly, this project has a lot of people who, at least a lot of people that had forgotten about it, was actually starting to make some waves all over again. So at this point, I'm going to admit, I started feeling a bit more FOMO, the fear of missing out. It was creeping in. I mean, if a coin like this can rocket nearly 90% from its lows and muscle its way into the top 20, then you have to wonder if you're about to miss something rather big, right? Especially if you don't hold enough of it. Now, I'm watching HBAR go from quiet underdog to the talk of the town, and I'm asking myself, do the big players know something that I do not? Should I be buying more HBAR because, I'm feeling this FOMO, and should I do it before it is too late? Now, this is a classic kind of crypto investor dilemma, isn't it? Right? You're happy that you hold some, but now you're wondering, should you actually bet even bigger on this one? Now, that's the fear of missing out, and it is rather real when you see a chart just like this. Trust me there. But I also have to stay rational. So I dug into what other analysts are saying to kind of gauge this momentum and whether there is hype or whether there is actually more room to run. And oh boy, the analysts have come out with some pretty bold takes. One analyst that I follow, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋, actually made a prediction that HBAR could reach about 50 cents in the median term, which would be about 150% gain from where its price is at the point of this recording. right? And, at the point of his analysis. Now, in his view here, the recent breakout that we've seen is strong and could carry HBAR towards that target. He even said that if HBAR confirms a bigger breakout, the long-term target would be around 96 cents, basically just under $1. That's nearly 5x from HBAR was kind of at those lows. Now, talk about optimism. Now, let's be clear, that's just one person's forecast. It's not a guarantee. But it does show that there is some bullishness that some people have become on, at least how bullish, I guess, some people have become on HBAR's prospects here, especially now that it's getting this kind of recognition on a global stage. Another respected chart analyst, Jonathan Carter, pointed out a pattern forming on HBAR's chart that got my attention too. He saw a bullish flag on the 3-day chart. Basically, HBAR's price shot up, that's the flagpole, and has since been consolidating into a tight range, that's the flag. Now, according to this guy, this pattern suggests that buyers are steadily accumulating HBAR, like loading up in anticipation of the next move. Carter interprets this consolidation as the calm before a potential storm, in a good way, of course. Now, if the bullish flag does play out, it often leads to another strong leg up. He hinted at incremental price increases, 23 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, even up to 60 cents, as possible waypoints if momentum returns. Now, the exact numbers aren't as important as the actual takeaway. The chart still looks constructive. A lot of savvy traders are eyeing an upward breakout if HBAR can push above its recent highs. So, on one hand, you've got fundamental news, right? Or at least the great fundamentals and some good news, right? Google's involvement, real-world data integration, and institutional inflows. And on the other hand, we've got some technical, right? And some sentiment. Bullish chart patterns, rising volume, analysts setting moonshot targets, right? So this is an exciting combination for any cryptocurrency asset. It feels like HBAR has a shot at a cycle of its own here. But, and there's always a but, right? Before anyone watching this gets way too carried away, let's inject a dose of realism and responsibility into the mix. You see, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so with that disclaimer, very important disclaimer out of the way, because you knew that it was coming, let's continue here, right? That warning that isn't just for you guys, by the way, it's also for me too, because I am hyped. I'm hyped on HBAR right now, and I have to keep myself grounded, because I could just go heavier if I wanted to into HBAR, so I have to remind myself of that disclaimer too. So let's kind of talk about a couple of cautionary points that I have noticed here. Right? One is that not all of Hedera's metrics are indeed booming, right? For example, the actual network activity on Hedera has not skyrocketed yet, despite the price increases. So I looked at some on-chain stats here, right? The total stablecoin supply on Hedera has actually dropped recently, from around $170 million to about $127 million. And the total value locked, TVL, in Hedera's DeFi ecosystem, which is measuring how much money is actually in Hedera's smart contracts, that has fallen to a year-to-date, at least from a year-to-date high of around $400 million to $192 million. So those numbers, they aren't so great. They show that usage is still on the lower side. So while the news and the price action are super encouraging, Hedera still has to prove that it can grow its user base and activity. Now I'm optimistic, but I'm also watching those fundamentals from the sidelines. That said, of course, the overall picture for Hedera right now is probably one of the brightest that I've seen since I started following the project back in 2020. It kind of feels like multiple forces are aligning here. Terminology or technological kind of validation, thanks to Google's involvement, increasing accessibility, BigQuery, data transparency, and you've got market confidence, price surge, ETF interest, bullish sentiment. Now, it's not often that you get all of those things all at once for a crypto that was, frankly, flying under a lot of people's radars, right? But in a way, this is the perfect example of how crypto can surprise you. Sometimes the big catalysts, they aren't a flashy partnership announcement or a celebrity endorsement. No, sometimes it's actually the quiet infrastructure upgrades that can unlock a new level of credibility for a project. Now, Hedera's BigQuery integration is exactly just that. It's a bit nerdy, yes, but it actually does matter significantly. It's kind of like laying down a highway for future traffic. Enterprises, analysts, and developers, they now have a smooth road into Hedera's world. And you know what drives on highways? Big money and big ideas. I actually find it quite poetic, actually. Here I am geeking out over Hedera making inroads with Google's cloud, and at a time, or at least at the same time, I'm actually dabbling with another project to kind of complete the opposite end of the spectrum here, right? A grassroots project formed by World Mobile and Minutes Network, and they had a baby together called Unity. Now, some of you already know that I've spoken about Unity before. It's not the main focus of this video, of course, but it is part of my own personal crypto journey, and it ties into the theme that I'm finding new ways to participate in crypto. So let me give you a quick update on just that. It's pretty cool. So it's not sponsored or anything like that. This is just me experimenting with a crypto project. So if you have not heard of Unity nodes from my previous videos, here is a shorter version of it. It's a platform that lets you turn your phone into a part of a global telecoms network. And in doing so, you actually earn rewards for helping verify telecommunications cell signals and call quality. Right now, think of it like this, right? Mining crypto, but instead of high-end GPUs or ASIC miners, you're actually just using an everyday smartphone to do some light work like test the call quality, right? And in return for doing those tests, you earn cryptocurrencies. And you can choose to be paid in the major coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, XRP, maybe even HBAR down the line, and a whole bunch of others too. And I was intrigued by this concept. So, who wouldn't be, right? Turning a phone into a crypto miner, right? That would be pretty interesting. So I did jump into this. I purchased a Unity Master Node NFT, which basically is like giving me 200 licenses to add phones to the network. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and add 200 devices to this network in one go, right? I'm crazy. I'm not that crazy though, right? So I started with just a small test of 10 phones to see how it all kind of works out. Now, I wanted to see how legit it was, how worthwhile it was before I scaled it up. Is it profitable? And if it is successful, then I'm going to gradually ramp up to more devices, right? I do have 200 licenses to add devices to the network. So, I have an upper limit and I'm starting small, right? Now, I'm going to maximize the passive income if it works out as expected. Now, the awesome part, of course, is that you get to choose the cryptocurrencies that you want to earn. They're not creating some new coin that no one's ever heard of. No, you can actually just choose to be paid out in major coins if you want to. Now, personally, I'm opting for a mix of different assets, things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP. And maybe HBAR if they add it later, basically adding to my long-term bags without lifting a single finger. Now, if all goes well here, it's kind of like staking or mining, but with this creative twist. It just appeals to the tinkerer in me. Now, as always, you need to do your own research if it piques your interest. I am not here to hype it up or to tell you to go and ape into it, no. In fact, Unity's concept isn't exactly new to our community. It's been mentioned many, many times in many videos before, so a lot of you guys are already up to speed on it. But for the new people, I'm going to put some links in the description down below to Unity's website, where you'll find their light paper and their rewards calculator, so you can see all the nitty-gritty details and crunch the numbers for yourself. Because you know what? Transparency is key, right? Never trust a YouTuber, not even me, right? Not anyone, right? Not without verifying things for yourself. So check it out and see if it makes sense for you. I also should share just this little nifty development. I did actually buy a second and third Unity Master node. Why an extra two? Well, it's because I'm doubling down. Well, aside from doubling down, I'm actually going to be looking to lease these licenses out to community members, because not everyone wants the hassle of having to deal with 200 devices, myself included, right? So my idea is that I can lease out to you guys some of my spare licenses and we can share in the rewards, right? We're thinking 90% to you guys, 10% to support the channel here, right? Just a way to kind of give back to you guys. You can dip your toes into it and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is an interesting thing, extra licenses that you might be able to utilize if you are interested in Unity and all of that stuff. Now, we're going to put more details about how all of this is going to work down in our Discord server. So if you're not in the Discord, you can go ahead and check it out. out, it is linked in the description below. Now, by the way, if you haven't joined the Discord yet, you are missing out on a whole ton of different discussions and educational content. It's totally free, and it's where we have a kind of, as a community, brainstorm and share all of these kind of crazy crypto ideas. So you can hop in if you are interested. The link is down below. Okay, deep breath. Let's zoom back and wrap up this whole Hedera story. It's kind of amazing to see the contrast, isn't it? Because on one side, I'm messing around with phones and experimental node networks like Unity. And on the other side, you've got Hedera partnering up with one of the biggest companies on the planet to potentially power institutional grade applications. This just shows you how broad the crypto universe has become. You've got these smaller, grassroots, innovative kind of projects like Unity, all the way to the high-level, enterprise-level adoption from Hedera. It's all happening simultaneously too. And honestly, I think that's actually both are rather important here. The small experiments that might become the next big thing, and the big enterprises might lend credibility and stability to the whole entire space. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's that sometimes the game-changing news in crypto doesn't scream in your face. It might just whisper. Google Cloud quietly adding Hedera to BigQuery didn't make front-page news on CNN, right? Or anything crazy like that. But it does speak volumes. It tells me that Hedera is indeed here to stay, that it's being taken seriously by people who really do matter, and it's also laying rails for future growth. Now, the market is noticing in its own little way here. Price action, analyst optimism, and as an HBAR holder myself, and I know many of you guys watching are as well, it's vindicating to see a project get this kind of spotlight. Now, we all remember the times when HBAR was dubbed boring or overlooked or just not true blockchain, right? Now it's actually proving its worth through real technology milestones and climbing the ranks by market capitalization too. Of course, we stay humble, right? This is crypto after all. Things can change quickly. Today's experiment can become tomorrow's correction, right? But I feel more confident about Hedera's trajectory than I have done in a rather long time. So if you've been in the HBAR community, you're probably feeling that energy too. If you're new to it, then hey, welcome. You just witnessed one heck of a chapter in the Hedera story. And if HBAR's not your thing, that's also cool. Use this as a case study. Look at projects doing real things, making real partnerships or real integrations, and capturing interest in a sustainable way. Now, those are the ones that tend to have lasting power beyond just the hype cycles. Now, before we do close, I want to share one quick pro tip that this whole episode reminded me of. You should always have a plan B, plan C in crypto, because when HBAR starts pumping, then I was kind of rebalancing some of my holdings and taking a little bit of profit. Just imagine, right? If my main exchange went down right then, I would be completely locked out, right? That's why I always keep accounts on multiple exchanges. I literally go through the process of signing up, doing KYC if needed, and testing out as many reputable exchanges as I possibly can, because you never know when one will have an outage or suspend withdrawals. I have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C for trading. For instance, I primarily use a couple of big exchanges, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, right? But I also have accounts on smaller platforms like Blowfin and BitGet, which I use for a lot of my leverage-based trades. Now, here's a shameless plug if you do decide to try any of them out. You'll find a link to my website down in the description. And on the website, I list all of the exchanges that I do personally use. And I have affiliate links for each of those exchanges too. So if you do go to the website and sign up to any of those exchanges that I use, then I want to kind of be really straight with you guys. Those affiliate links, they support the channel here, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. I'm talking about this now because I do want to be really clear with you guys that those are affiliate links, they support the channel, and I really do appreciate it. So if you do spend the time to go to our website using the link that's in the description and to sign up to any of those exchanges, I want to say a big thank you to you guys because you make this channel possible. Anyway, the point is that you've got to spread out your own risk and you've got to be prepared. In crypto, stuff happens, and it usually happens when you least expect it, right? I want all of you guys to stay safe and nimble out there. So if you have found this adventure insightful or at least entertaining, you can do me another favor too, by hitting that like button and subscribe to more stories just like this. I will catch you all in the next one.